And now, where's Winston? Written by Artie Knapp. Illustrated by Guy Hobbs. The cold wind blew past the geese with the weight of a freight train and the sting of 100 bumblebees. While everyone stretched for a long flight, Ralph, the flock's flight commander, began a final roll call.
All right, Troop 408, it's time to get underway. When I call out your name, a simple yes or here will do.
As Ralph went down the list alphabetically, he dreaded reaching the letter C. Every year, his brother Carl pleaded to lead the flock. Carl had led Troop 408 once before, which resulted in a winter spent in Albuquerque instead of Florida. Still frustrated, Carl asked Ralph why no one had said anything at the time. Ralph was quick to remind Carl that the flock had honored the Code of Silence. A code of silence is an agreement that a flock honors when following one goose. From rooftops to busy streets, to flying when it feels like your wings could snap, it doesn't matter. You follow the leader. While Carl complained, Ralph asked him to name the color of his clipboard.
Nice try, Ralph. That's a trick question. There's no clipboard, Carl said.
Ralph leaned in and gently tapped his clipboard against Carl's beak.
Carl, please get new glasses like we discussed.
Though Carl pouted, Ralph continued down the line. He soon realized one goose was missing.
Where's Winston?
Ralph asked. Betty, who stood at the other end of the line, said, I know where Winston is.
Do you mind telling me where?
Ralph asked. Having promised she wouldn't say anything, Betty reluctantly agreed as Ralph pleaded that icicles were forming on his beak. Betty flew off the hilltop, and the other geese followed her.
Okay, Betty, where's Winston? Ralph asked.
It's not much farther, Betty said. Betty led the flock down a riverbank and up a hill where an old wooden shed lay buried in brush. Are you in there, Winston? Betty asked. A loud noise from within the shed rattled its foundation. Betty, is that you?
Yes, it's her, Winston, Ralph said, shaking his head. We're ready to go.
Winston was surprised to see the entire flock staring at him. What's everyone doing here, Betty? I asked you not to say anything. I'm sorry, Winston. We don't want to leave without you, Betty said. Winston stepped outside, carrying something in his arms.
Winston, what are you doing?
Ralph asked. I'm taking care of this little bird. He injured his wing and can't fly.
I can see that, but you're not a doctor, Winston.
I know, Ralph, but the entire staff at the Birdville Medical Clinic has already flown south.
I feel for him, Ralph said, patting the little cardinal's head. But we've got to go. We can't stay here for the winter.
I'm sorry, Ralph. I know it won't be easy, but I'm not leaving. Ralph began to speak, but interrupted himself with a loud sneeze.
Achoo! Well, as much as I disagree with Winston's decision, it's time to get underway, Ralph said, rubbing his beak.
Ralph's cold presented a problem. Someone else would have to lead the flock, but the other members of Troop 408 were either past their prime or too inexperienced. Ralph would have to let Carl lead the flock. After the announcement, the members of Troop 408 consoled one another. Everyone pleaded with Winston to go, but he knew that taking care of his new friend was the right thing to do. The flock flew away, leaving Winston and the little cardinal all alone. The next week was hard for Winston. But while searching for food one morning, he looked up, and Troop 408 was just overhead.
"I knew they would come back," Winston said.
One by one, the geese landed on the river. They were all out of breath and visibly upset. Winston learned that the flock had no intention of returning so soon. You see, when a flock of geese honor a code of silence, they follow their leader no matter what. Carl's loop around Atlanta had cost them dearly, leading the flock right back to where they had started from. 2 significant things happened that winter. A baby cardinal grew up to be a healthy bird, and the members of Troop 408 vowed to never honor one of their most sacred packs again.